904 on KCMO Talk Radio, now in FM at 95.7. And we are happy to welcome in and say good morning to Tony Botello of Tony's Kansas City. Kind enough to promote the news yesterday. Tony, thank you.
No problem. You know, it's a big deal. Like I was saying to some of the readers, I mean, that it gives people more access. And literally, this is the take, we always talk about power moves in politics, like actual wattage involved.
Yeah.
That's nice.
100,000 watt FM, which, you know, for people that don't know, we had an FM, but it was a 250 watt stick. 250. We go from 250 to 100,000. So this is now the big time, Tony. This is good. And I think I think the marketplace is ready for more of what we've been doing, which is, you know, real actual local Kansas City news conversations, which don't happen in many places, right?
Yeah, and
let's be honest. I mean, it just doesn't.
Yeah, and you know, I like this. I mean, not to be, my hippie roots, my Che Guevara '90s T-shirt may not like this, but it's a commercial radio station. If you look at the news that's out now, it's all nonprofit.
Yes,
and it's all backed up by like the whatever foundation from who you know, people that you don't know in New York and DC brought to you lovingly.
Yeah,
and so no, this is, you know, you talk about local stuff. You have local advertisers. You know, it's very much a local operation. And, like, people understand, like, okay, this is how the radio station works. I think people have a better conception of that, something they can understand, not like, you know, crusty cat lady in a New York penthouse decides to give, you know, decides to give some British guy in Kansas City, like, $2 million to hire his friends. So, yeah, I think that there's... people respect they know what's going on here, and I like that.
Well, yes, and that's why we appreciate people supporting our advertisers as well, since they're the ones who also make this possible. By the way, how was the suite last night with Taylor Swift? I heard you were there at Arrowhead with her in the suite.
I wish. I wish everybody else was there. Ryan Ant-Man. Was there. No, he's not Ant-Man. He's Deadpool.
Yes.
Yeah. Deadpool's there. Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. I mean, they got the whole cast of characters. So.
Yeah, it was quite a night. Quite a night, man. I was just looking for you. I'm like, when is Tony going to pop up next to Taylor Swift? At some point, he's got to show up in there, but that's all right. I want to start off on the news side with, obviously, the national story this week has been the just tragedy happening with Israel. But the local anti-Israel rhetoric from very progressive circles in this town resulted in Quinton Lucas revoking the nomination of a guy to the zoning board who had some real anti-Israel rhetoric on his social media pages. But, Tony, it's been rampant all week long. You've seen it, I've seen it, and it's coming from the most diehard progressives in Kansas City.
Yeah, and, you know, it's everywhere. One of the things one of my readers was kind enough to share with me is you have Students for Justice in Palestine operating out of UMKC. I mean, UMKC is nice. It's a commuter college. It's my alma mater. When you can't get anywhere else, the city college is there for you. But no, and you know, and the KC Defender. It's a blog.
Oh, did they do something that piece of crap?
It's been all week, and like our black politicians who, you know, rightfully so, Congressman Cleaver, Quinton Lucas was, you know, they were going to Israel, you know, support rallies and meetings and trying to, you know, express to our Jewish community that they stand with them. And you have, oh no, it was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of our black community and Malcolm X like the Palestinians and, you know, whatever. It's parody. I mean, if you want to read absolute parody, it's really hard to make fun of it because it's just so silly.
Yeah.
And so with this zoning adjustment member, you know, you don't have Quinton Lucas publicly. It's an alternate member. You know, it was a low bar to get rid of him. He was an alternate member. And, you know, in fairness, he apologized. But it's kind of, I guess this is the point that I want to make. It's what people who support police funding have always said, like, these people are nuts. Like they are nuts, and you can't run a municipal government with like, oh no, homeless should be able to camp out wherever they want. We need universal basic income. Rent is like cancel rent, and so like you can't run a real city based on these ideas. And I think hopefully that's something in a very small setback for his administration. Maybe that's something that Quinton Lucas realized that the people, many people that are aligned with him, have these wackadoodle ideas that don't really work in the real world.
No, I wouldn't let these people run a lemonade stand. Let's just be honest. I mean, they do not know anything about the real world, and none of their ideas are applicable in the real world. They just work in their little fantasy land and bubble that they hang out in. And you're right. And I'm finding this headline here from the Kansas City Defender. Headline, Kansas City black civil rights leaders side with apartheid and genocide. It's a picture of Cleaver and Lucas. To use your words, they're nuts.
Yeah.
These are not serious human beings. But where I will criticize this administration in Kansas City, Quentin Lucas spent a lot of time cozying up to some of these KC tenants. I mean, they're all the same. He has cozied up to them far more than he ever should have when he first got into office.
And it's not just him. It's his supporters. It's a lot of the progressives in Kansas City. It feels nice. Like, yeah, people should make more money working horrible jobs. That's not a bad thing to say. But when you unpack it, when you peel the onion layers down, stand up KC, the fight for 15 people, KC tenants are all kind of the same people. And in theory, it's nice to support people stick it to the man. But when you really peel back and see what these people stand for, I looked at 2021, not that long ago, KC tenants calling Israel just an apartheid state,
yes,
and a prison camp, and to our credit, our Missouri friends our Republican friends in Jeff City tried to legislate against this BDS silliness, the boycott Israel movement. And KC tenants is completely supportive, lined up with that. And later this afternoon, there's a very popular KC announcer who does soccer games, and he went on record with me. I asked him on Twitter. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's Israel. I want to end." I don't think he called it apartheid, but basically like occupation.
Who is that?
You'll have to read my blog this afternoon to find out. But yeah, I mean, he's the soccer guy.
The guy that doesn't wear a shirt.
The guy with the hats.
Guy with the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so Hartzell.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so he's another anti-Semite. Great. So we're just continuing to line him up. But here's the thing. Is there going to be any repercussions for any of these people? I mean, I saw something that Mark sent me last night. There was a Fox 4 reporter here in town. Right, Mark? You sent that to me. Let me find that here. Hold on.
I think it's PJ.
Yeah, some PJ Green. He writes here on his Twitter page last night, the next time an African nation has a civil war, I'll expect the same treatment. And that was in reference to Adam Schefter talking about how NFL teams will hold a moment of silence before each game this weekend. Well, that is pathetic. I mean, these people have jobs right here in Kansas City at Fox 4. And it's not like he's like, we all screw up on social media. Boy, that was a bridge too far. Still up right now.
Right.
Still up. I mean, that's the other problem. There's no repercussions for this stuff. Clear anti-Semitism.
That's why I think this is a good start. I hate it. It hurts me. It's like pulling teeth to get me to say anything nice about Quentin Lucas, but just withdrawing that membership, it shows just a modicum of seriousness, especially when you get down to this, this is going to be an issue going forward, and you're going to have these people with these wackadoodle ideas. And maybe there is when you're participating in our municipal life. It'd be nice if our corporate journalism people did a little bit more, but as far as local government goes, I think that kind of rhetoric is maybe the last straw.
Well, I don't know, man. I hope in part, but even the Kansas City Star wrote this opinion piece yesterday. We denounce violence in the Israel-Hamas war, but we have to find a way to coexist. Well, first off, it's not an Israel-Hamas war. Israel was attacked by a bunch of savages. And then, they also go on to note in this article, they call Hamas a pro-Palestine organization. No, they're a bunch of murderous thugs and literally savages from 1,000 years ago. That's what they are. I mean, the fluff that they give on these terrorists and the protection they give them, maybe I was being naive, but if you told me a week ago this was going to happen and how it would play out, I wouldn't have believed it. But it is stunning to me how sympathetic they are for these terrible, god-awful human beings.
Yeah, I read the I called it their white flag editorial, and I just was really disappointed. One of their own writers kind of parted company with them on it because it was just it was too much, and Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the big argument is people, I don't like wishing bad things on people, but like if
I
somebody.
don't either, but come on,
Yeah,
guys.
if somebody came to my house, like if the cartel came to my house and beat me up and people were like, I stand with the state of Jalisco.
Yeah.
I would take offense to that. That would be anti-Tony rhetoric.
Yes, that would be.
And so when you have these people standing up, it gets pretty bad when you have them standing up for the other side, which is obviously terrorists, obviously, horrible, disgusting people that would do this kind of stuff. It really makes you wonder about the other ideas that they've endorsed in Kansas City.
Bingo. Tony Botello, Tony's Kansas City is here. Be sure to check out his site. You should be doing that every day for the real news of what's happening in town. How long have you been doing that, by the way?
About 18 years. We're getting close to 20.
Wow.
I like to say 75.
Jeez, that's impressive, man. Almost 20 years. How about that? So, Tony, let's dive into the plaza here for a second. The valuation is potentially half of what it was just a few years ago. Is that right?
It's a tax beef. 2021-22, it was $408 million valued. This year, they're trying to get by with $209.7 million. So, I mean, I don't know what happened, and everybody has their tax beef with Jackson County. It's so you don't know how seriously to take those numbers, but on paper, that's about half of its value.
That is crazy, man. I mean, that is what, like you said, everyone's got their tax beef. Who knows what it's really worth? Although it's going to sell, so we're at some point going to find out what it's worth, right? With that Dallas group.
Yeah, we should.
But I'm sitting here and I'm like, gosh, dang. If you would have told me the last 3.5 years that would be happening down at the plaza, would you have ever believed it? Vacancies, crime, everything else?
I wouldn't have believed the 400 million numbers because you do go back a little bit, and when they sold it, I think in about 2009, the real estate group, and it was valued at 700 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a sale price. That was a listed sale price. The whole district sold when the current ownership took hands, and I think that group before it had it for like about 10 years.
Wow.
So it was 700 million. So I mean, I'd like to blame it all on the youngster youth violence, but a lot of it, people are getting their stuff on Amazon.
Yeah, no, it's not all that. You're right, to be fair. Speaking of that, though, I'm going to throw a curveball at you here. You covered it, the decreasing crime in a key part of Kansas City, the Santa Fe neighborhood.
Right.
There was a big press conference this week. Do you think that's smoke and we had the police chief on. Do you think that's smoke and mirrors, or do you think they can actually apply that citywide?
Any progress is nice. And so I don't want to, so just to start out with, I'm not downplaying their progress, but we can sit around and cherry pick stats all day. There was a murder this morning that the police sent out info. I posted it on the blog. That puts us at 148. There's 151 was our record pace in 2020. So I think when you look at big picture, and that's why I've always kept through my 17 years, I've always kept an eye on the homicide number because it's a big overall indication. It's a federal number. They usually tend not to mess with those. So I'm really glad, and it does show progress. But overall, I mean, it's kind of an Reagan-esque question. Like, do you feel safer in Kansas City? And I'm glad that, their efforts in Santa Fe have worked out. But a lot of it is not just neighborhood. It's not like, people in dark bushes lurking around waiting to grab you. A lot of it's domestic violence. A lot of it is gangs. I mean, if they told me they had a gang task force and they took some of these people who are just absolute, like, neighborhood terrorists off the street and they had a plan to do that, I might be a little bit more heartened. When they tell me that, like, they got a bunch of nice people together and everybody, like, did their best to bring down crime, it seems to me like preaching to the choir.
And you think it's cherry picking stats a little bit?
Yeah, I really do.
Man, I want you to be wrong. I know you want to be wrong on that too, because there's just so many problems still. But I understand that completely. So take me through the South Loop. Where the heck are we at on that South Loop project? They want to put the big, pretty, park there, I guess, and do the whole thing.
This week I went through some of their press releases, and if you read them real closely, as no one does, but I'm the kind of guy, I have time.
That's why you make the big bucks.
Yeah. It's a private park. It is a private park, and I think that's something that people need to. It's going to be privately managed. It is not going to be like a loose park or something that we're used to under the Parks Board. privately managed. I don't know exactly. They won't tell you what exactly that means. But when you see privately managed in there for someone like myself, that raises a lot of eyebrows. So that to me was the big discovery. And I mean, and the second thing that I think deserves mentioning is a lot of these funds, we went through the same thing with the KC Pet Project. They were like, oh, we're going to build this awesome facility. We'll fund it through the donations. It never happened. Whenever they promise that, it never happens. And so I want people to understand that when they say like, oh, going to all be funded through donations, these other, like, are those donations secure? Is that part of some ballot initiative? Because they have a tendency to disappear.
All right. Now, speaking of things being built or potentially built, you're going to ride that Ferris wheel for $50 on the VIP ride?
It would be nice. It'd be nice if they, God, I don't want to be too raunchy here, but For $50, I guess as radio friendly, as family friendly, I guess can be. Do I get to like get naked? I mean, is there some kind of lounge? $50 is a lot. How comfortable?
Mark,
how comfortable?
John, can anyone answer that? Can Tony get naked if he goes in the VIP gondola on the new Ferris wheel?
I think he could get arrested, but we'll see.
All right, you could get arrested.
I just want to know, for $50, just to look at the skyline, which I can go walk up to Liberty Memorial. Now, I know I can't get naked at Liberty Memorial. Friends of mine have tried.
Well, or if you're homeless, you could do that. Sure.
Maybe.
They'd slap you on the wrist, tell you to go home.
It's very pricey. The new renderings this week, and it looks smaller. That's my line with the Ferris wheel, is that most Ferris wheels, they're able to support a funnel cake stand. This looks like it'll support mini golf, some drinks. It's nice. It will add to the carnival-like atmosphere of the real estate prices around downtown.
Well, that is a very good point. So what's the story we haven't talked about yet in the last minute that we've missed? Can you think of anything that we haven't touched on yet?
We covered Kansas City's very nice. Just to make a full circle, to go back to Taylor, we're really nice. We put up with what is obviously a marketing stunt. And in other markets and other raunchier radio shows, they've really gone out over the past 2 weeks wanting to be nice, documented proof of the relationship. And I mean, you're a dad. You tell me. Your daughters, maybe they ask you, like, is it real? Is it nice? Are they dating? It's a marketing stunt. Everybody knows it's a marketing stunt. Do you tell them? Or do you, like, oh, no, sweetie, true love exists?
Well, all I know is Claire, my 4-year-old, did say to me, she said, Dad, are Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce married yet? And I said, no, they're still friends.
Right.
So we'll leave it at that. And Tony, you are always our friend and welcomed in here anytime, my man.
Thank you, Pete.
You bet. Tony Botello, go read his site every day, Tony'sKansasCity.com. It's the place to go for anything and everything news in Kansas City. And he was kind enough to promote us and our news yesterday, of course, being now on 95.7 FM, 913-408-7957 is how you join us here on KCMO Talk Radio.